for housing is.
She might have said something to me at the last meeting and I forgot. So,
Well, she's asking for now. Hey, well, with that pledge, anybody stand? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if you get the forms, no?
Okay, so we're gonna talk, budget. We're gonna talk some personnel additions. And then, I'm just wanting to get some input on where you'd like the capital improvement levy and EDA levy to sit, if we have time, going through, if anybody had any, comments on the general government worksheets. And the ones in the packet are updated with, we have some updated revenues and then personnel, that were updated as of today. And then just a brief discussion, sort of this, just to provide information on the statewide volunteer firefighter plan, information that is in your packet. So, let's start with the personnel additions. The first one's pretty minor. It's in the, I think I put it in the admin budget. It's money for an intern to do scanning or the starting our document imaging work. So,
Not in my.
Not on here, no.
yeah, I didn't do it. I didn't do a memo. I'm just trying to dig through my packet here because I can't remember where I threw it. I think we have roughly about 10,000 budgeted.
I recall it being discussed, but I don't, it's not in the minutes.
Correct. I didn't do a memo for it because it's a relatively minor addition to the budget.
So
So
you think you put 10,000 in?
I believe so. Check. I know where I put it.
It wasn't in the package.
It was in last week's packet.
Yeah.
In
I
the
know,
memo.
it.
Sorry.
But
Technology?
Maybe it's.
I just,
Ed, where did I throw it?
I
I did put it in technology. Yep,
Technology part-time.
yep.
looking for an intern.
Yep, 9648 is what we have in the budget, which is 8 hours and 67 days roughly. So,
They'd be looking for an intern that maybe gotta be geared in doing something like that for the future,
well,
or not necessarily, I guess.
I think it's just, we use our, marketing interns and things like that for, other projects on occasion. This would be dedicated specifically for, we would start with minutes and, say planning commission packets. Person would scan and index.
And I think that's, you're not gonna using up regular time of a regular.
Correct.
Employees, so it won't take away from their job.
Correct, it's the backlog of things. As we start to implement Laserfish, the goal will be to have employees just start to utilize it as part of their regular daily activities, and just become second nature.
Kind of a department in it, or kind of a department, technology stuff, or.
It is, but we have to put, personnel, yeah, so.
Do
So if you're-
you, sorry, do you typically just post it, or do you have like where you would get the interns? Would that be like a more high school level, or like when I did it, it was through a temp service, and they just contracted there and,
It could be any and all of the above.
okay,
It could just be a general posting on Facebook saying, hey, I mean, this would be a great job for, say a stay-at-home mom who has kids that are maybe in elementary school, so she's, you know, looking for something to do, a little extra income. I think we want someone maybe college age or older, because it's, I mean, not that high school students aren't detail oriented, but, I think we would want someone that's maybe a little older, a little more detail oriented, because there is some level of accuracy that we're gonna want when we start.
And maybe data privacy.
Correct, and there is data privacy depending upon what we have them working on.
Okay.
So if the council's okay, we'll proceed with, we'll leave it in the budget. If we decide we want to cut it out, we can, but I just want to make sure that. And we have to start somewhere. The alternative would be to do an RFP, under, a capital, expenditure for an actual firm to come in and
Mhm.
do scanning services, which is
We
cheap.
can get by without doing that.
Yeah,
Fair, anyway, if it comes to that, we may have to.
and we don't know when that person would even start, right?
Correct.
Sometime next year.
Sometime next year, yeah. We need to do our homework first. We need to get the system set up the way we want it.
Mhm.
Because otherwise we're just setting up the scanning part to fail,
Mhm.
so.
Okay.
Okay, next on the, request for additional personnel is the Public Works conversion of a part-time seasonal position to a full-time, position. So that would, we would go from 6 general maintenance 2, positions to 7, and we would eliminate that seasonal part-time, person that comes in over the winter to, do snow plowing and other duties as assigned. And, so, I did some number crunching. We are doing an internal promotion. So the budget for next year has been adjusted to reflect that. And with the elimination, or not the elimination, the conversion, we are seeing a, savings, in personnel costs for Public Works all in total. There's one staff person that whose salary and wages and benefits go to the airport. But at the end of the day, we do see a savings by doing this. And it does resolve, a number of issues, staffing issues that we're seeing now. And Bob, you wanna fill anything else in?
I do, I mean, I've got fantastic staff, but because of the longevity and lack of turnover, a lot of my guys are, they're taking time, and, I want to backfill those hours that were there. I like to be more proactive than reactive, and we're getting to be more reactive. And I don't like operating that way. I don't think our constituents need that. I think they need proactive. And by doing this, there's a small increase, but it also is going to promote more longevity, which is, there's a good and bad, but
Stability, let's call it stability.
I don't have turnover, and it's a good problem to have. So,
So you have room to be more of a jerk. You could just.
I'm glad you said it.
Well, and I think too, the problem, there's PTO time,
Yep,
and the longer they're here, the more they earn, whatever.
Yep.
Mhm.
And there's FMLA, there's Minnesota, or the
leave, earn safe
paid
and sick.
leave, there's earned safe and sick time, there's like,
So now I'm at a point where, I have seasonal help right now that does grass cutting, watering of flowers and trees, and I want to continue that, but I think
backfilling and augmenting this part-time position to, and making it full-time, it's gonna make services to our residents better. And it will reduce the amount of calls, concerns, and complaints. It will be able to deliver a higher level of service is what, and that's really the expectation of almost everyone, wherever you go at. It doesn't matter if it's public works or the voter joint.
And this reduction is like 54,000.
Mhm.
Can that help offset the intern? I mean, is that?
Yeah, so I did a little number crunching. I plugged it into my, from last week to this week, and we dropped at least a percentage point on the levy. Actually, probably, yeah, we were at like 9%. And now we're at like 7.8% just by dropping $54,000 out of our budget.
Nice.
So, and that doesn't count then all the other, scalpel shaving we'll be doing
Yeah.
over the next couple of months.
Where are
So,
we at right now?
from a percentage?
Yeah.
Well, if I just do the, not including all the extra levies, the capital improvements, economic development, we're at 7.83 with that reduction, just on the general fund.
What did we file? What number was filed?
9 something.
Okay, the paper had it wrong then.
Yeah, they did.
I was looking at it, I said, no, that's your.
No, it was
What did they-
6.
6.72.
Well, the whole headline was wrong. They used an exclamation point instead of an L in the left. It's just weird. Like, yeah,
Proofreader.
yeah. So,
Okay.
Man, they don't have that, no,
yeah.
papers are,
So anyway, so yes, so there is a, so that reduction of 54,000, that still includes the intern number, so,
Okay.
yeah,
There we go.
so. Are we, am I seeing some consensus for proceeding with that conversion? I just make sure that
yeah, I think it's,
everybody's,
it's all
okay,
dotted, got the line here.
just want to be clear.
And we're, well, we're adding. I love these demographer estimates, the school district, I've been pretty involved in that process over there. They're contradictory in so many ways. How does anybody, I mean, one way to say, oh, we got the highway open now, there's gonna be more people coming here. We have a big development going in Princeton Township, right outside of our limit. A lot of involvement, and all reflect the school district. But yet they say we have no student growth. Well, yeah, there's gonna be more kids here.
Yeah, well.
Well, I don't know, and sideline here, that's not where we're
Yeah.
going here.
All right.
But it applies to this too.
All right. Moving on. So, working with Todd and Ryan, we put together this memo in your packet that talks about a long-term police department staffing plan and how we are gonna be able to respond to, existing challenges for the department and, the additional growth that we will likely see with the Pontius project, another phase building for Briggs. The school district site, if they ever sell and develop that, et cetera. So, Todd, you wanna keep going,
Sure.
or do you wanna?
No, I mean,
jump
yeah,
in?
we could tag team and I would just take Bob's exact words and put them from the job he did. Proactive, reactive word, way to go with that.
Found a new dictionary.
So, obviously, and I think, I'm not, Bob said it perfectly, like, I feel like we're super reactive right now. I would tell you there are shifts, there are days where we're just staying afloat with one officer on. As Jenny, Councilmember Gerald said, one of the problems we're having is with the, vacations and PTO, sick time and all that kind of stuff.
we're just staying afloat. I pulled one of our higher vacation requests end of August. Our sergeant worked 80 hours, supposed to only work 80. He was at 97. The following week, I ended with 107. In my position right now, I would tell you I need a little bit of help. I'm struggling it's become difficult with audits. It's become difficult with right now trying to stay up to date on statutes and different post board requirements and all that. I've been trying to do it, to be honest with you, myself, just because Ryan's having to cover a lot of calls or a lot of shifts, so to speak. Now, nothing against my guys. Like Bob said, I have a phenomenal group. My young guys are energized and running around and having fun. But with the population, and I tried, we had tons of data, and I'm glad that Michelle was able to help us put this together, because I feel like the memo could have been 45 pages long. I'm like taking those major companies that we have in town and having conversations with them. I know our population is 5,400, but it really is not 5,400. We have a lot of people that come into town, which is awesome. We want that, right? We want to continue with our housing and our development. So trying to look at the future and trying to look at, and talking with Michelle, like you look at averages from International Chiefs Association to FBI studies, there's, we're under where we should be. I guess I could keep going. Michelle, you can jump in on, I can take a break.
So what we did was we put together the memo to try to lay out where Todd, because he's the subject matter expert, I'm just trying to guide the discussion with the council. Where we think the department needs to be ultimately, how we get there. Todd's laid out one path. I think organizationally, I think the path is probably the right way to go. How it gets implemented and how quickly it gets implemented. Tonight, we're just looking for discussion with the council and input and what additional information you would like to see. I believe that the 2026 budget does include what I'm calling a 3/4 position, but assuming that the budget is approved for another officer, by the time we write the ad, we post it, we do interviews, they get through the background checks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It takes about 90 days to get through that process before someone actually can get their butt in a car and start their field training. So right now, the budget reflects that. And so obviously we have October, November, and part of December to make a final decision, but we're presenting the information and we'd like some conversation and direction and thoughts from the council.
The other, just so I can add to so I think one piece that we're worried about, that we're missing a little bit of is that supervisory piece while on duty.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously want that, and I really do think we need it, especially since we've gotten to a younger department. And I don't know, if anyone will hear this, but in the past, we would have deputies that were seasoned, that were able to assist with calls. I will tell you, they are younger than us.
Mm-hmm.
They have sergeants that are young, that we have given directive to our guys. Hey, no, you listen to us, you call us, wake us up, whatever we need to do. So the amount of call load that Ryan and myself have received off duty is at the highest it's ever been, which we want that to happen. I'm never going to not answer the phone, but Bob and myself tease all the time that I think our phone is always ringing, and that's part of the job, we get that. But it's concerning just from the standpoint of where law enforcement is at, we still want to maintain guidance, right? And so looking at the whole 5-year plan, that's kind of where, you know, if you look at our population growth, or we want it to continue to grow, this suits us really well. It suits our community really well in regards to that. As Bob put it so elegantly, that, that being proactive and not just having to deal with call and catch up, so.
Does your salary get impacted at all having to respond all the time? Do you get paid more having to respond?
I get what I get, don't throw
So
it.
that's just burnout.
Ryan gets what he gets, don't, I mean, so, what, a couple years now, we were kind of operating like with this like hybrid sergeant position,
Mhm.
right? Would you call that, Michelle? Like a high?
Yes,
weird?
it was a hybrid Frankenstein, probably in violation of Federal Labor Standards Act, where, because if you are in a supervisory position under FLSA, you are considered an exempt position,
Right.
yet he was getting paid hourly and overtime. So had we been audited from anybody, we would have probably been a pickle.
Mhm.
So when we did the, classification compensation study, there was a lot of adjustments made, from a market standpoint and also from a grading standpoint. So so basically, there's a little more, there's a little more discreteness in terms of what grade Todd's at versus Ryan, the sergeant, versus our
Mhm.
detective, versus the canine officer, versus the rest of the staff, the rest of the patrol officers. So, I think that helped. And then, yes, Ryan is a salaried position, no more hybrid.
Yeah.
Frankenstein,
That's good.
so.
I guess the thing that I pick up on here is, what, 5-6 year plan, 5-year plan? The thing about that is that it leaves room for flexibility down the road. You know, let's just pick 2028. Maybe conditions will be a little bit different than what we're receiving, and it may not be exactly what we're doing here. This gives us flexibility for the future to.
Correct.
It's a good plan, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, it's nice to have the longer term and to allow for possible. And the other question, well, before you go, the equipment additions, obviously that doesn't buy squad cars, so you're talking about guns, vests, uniforms, whatever.
Yeah, you know, like we would have to obviously increase the uniform allowance piece, which is a union designated amount, but yeah, there's, you know, everything from purchasing a radio to a handgun, to a rifle, to a vest, to attack, you know, so yeah, those standard things that, you know, we're trying to maybe guess at a little bit as far as where that cost will be in a year. They seem to, you know, always be moving around, but, and then the squad car piece, I believe it was like 28, because looking at the variables, we feel we can get around what we currently have for a couple of years until we can, like you said, Jeff, reassess a little bit.
If this all progresses as you're laid out, you're gonna have to be another squad car, probably purchase in addition to your.
Correct.
At some point, but we don't know that.
Correct.
You ever see that show Pacific Blue where they ride bikes?
That's a good shot. I have-
Or like those electric scooters?
You know what's interesting is I have guys, I have bikes, we have bikes. They would love to ride bikes. I would tell you, like, from a covert tactical operation, it's like super fun. But again, we're not able to because we have one on,
Yeah.
right? So what do you do if, you know, it never fails, right? You get a call and then, oh, I gotta put the bike away, right? So, no,
You're in town.
good call. And we'll be, yeah.
Mhm.
I have to say lately, it's been kind of nice with all the new guys on, all the young guys, because I can drive through town. You see a cop every time you drive through town now. And it's, the presence is awesome, just
Well-
what we see now. And I know that's just, they're just getting their time in and stuff, and that will slowly dwindle back to kind of strap for that.
We've gone as far to, you know, like, I mean, we have GPS data. I can look and see how long they're at the PD. I can do all that, right? We have Big Brother watching, right? They love it. That's why, you hear some people want to put tinfoil over the car. But we've had to have conversations about it. Like, instead of going back to the report room at the police department, because you've been on 5 calls that have taken 5 hours, go find someplace visible and do your report. Now, I will tell you, it's a very difficult thing to do because you get kind of advanced in your typing and you lose your surroundings. And there's unfortunately been situations in other law enforcement worlds where people have been shot because they've walked up to a car and the officer is focused on a report. So it's not the most ideal, but we're having to just kind of be creative right now, for the most part. But yeah, I mean, the new guys are having fun.
I don't think it's the worst thing to have that presence and to increase some of that presence in town, especially with some of the stuff that's happened lately with outsiders strolling through town and deciding to stay for a little bit. So, I mean, I think that helps deter that.
People want to feel free. I live in Meadowview and maybe just because I'm out more in the summer, but I observe the people. Maybe it's not more than it ever was, but maybe because I was there, I don't know.
You're high profile, Jack.
I'm gonna be the devil's advocate.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. And I have a lot of notes, but I'll start with how the memo was presented, because that's how I wrote my notes down as I was reading it.
Yep, no, that's all right.
The first one I'd like to mention is the, calls for service. The annual total calls for service has gone down. Like, we're the lowest it's been since 2008. Okay, so I just want to note that. And then if I go down to the next page where we've got a review of the annual number of calls by shift. So it looks like you picked like one officer from each shift.
Just a rotation side.
Yep. And if I did my math right, which I usually can figure that out, but the day officer in 2024 averaged 1.8 calls per shift. The second afternoon officer averaged 2.8 calls per shift. And the evening officer averaged 2 per shift. And I did 8-hour shift. So if they're working a 10-hour shift, I mean, it would change it a little bit. So that's an average of how many calls per shift. And I know they do other stuff that don't create ICRs and that kind of thing, but,
Are you basing it off of what number?
what do you mean?
Like, not 365?
I did like a 40-hour work week. So there's 52 weeks. And if you divide it by 8-hour shifts, it's 260 hours.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's what I fixed it up. But anyways, so, I mean, that kind of jumped out to me, that that's like about the average number of calls. And then we get down to industry standards. Wait, we'll go back up to the vision of the sergeant position.
Can you tell me where your page you're?
I'm on
5?
page 5.
No, you're on page 3. You said the
No,
vision.
5 in the,
Oh, sorry, I was looking at my memo.
Mm.
So
5 on number.
got it.
It talks about the vision of, the sergeant's position was to assist the chief in scheduling and other administrative duties. But what are those other administrative duties? I'd be curious to just sit down and kind of get a good feel of. what
Right
that-
now, it's very minimal because
Yeah.
I can't like. Perfect example,
Well, then maybe what you would envision him doing. We can
Oh.
talk about that. Okay. The next thing, the industry standards for staffing levels. I mean, it gives like what they indicate should be, but we don't know if that's all lumped into like places like Minneapolis where there's a high crime rate
Mhm.
and those kinds of things. So I would be interested to know what other local cities with our population, what they're doing for a number of officers and how are they scheduling and those kinds of things. And And then the lieutenant job duties, would that change versus what Ryan as a sergeant right now? If he became a lieutenant, would his job duties change or would it still be what he's doing now?
Well, you're gonna answer that, like?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure, what, like,
Yeah.
come back later. So at least in my vision of the lieutenant's position is still, because we're still a smaller department, I still, to be honest with you, consider the chief and the lieutenant a sergeant, whomever to be call cards, right? Just because we're not Sherburne County, Elk River PD, those kind of things, right?
Mhm.
I still envision the lieutenant to be a call car. I still envision the lieutenant to have to be a cover car. To accommodate those, vacations or court time or stuff like that. Other stuff that I would like to see, obviously, right now, scheduling takes up a big part of it. Trying to work through the schedule and figure out vacation requests and stuff like that. I would like that training piece. There's some things that, whether it's ordering squads, training pieces, the audits, the military, there's a bunch of things that I think we can divide and conquer.
Mhm. We have, field training officers, FTOs, right? That train the new guys.
Mhm.
And so would that go away from their responsibility to the?
Well, there's no way you could because we send them to certifications.
Mhm.
We need somebody, like right now, I manage and Ryan manages the FTO. So basically if, whether it's a field training officer or whether it's a training officer, any plan, hey, we're gonna do this training, we approve it, right? We make sure that it follows the requirements that post board wants. I would like to be able, well, I need help with that, right?
Mhm.
From an FTO standpoint, we still need to have those meetings with the officers. We still need to have those meetings with the new officers. The deal, for right now, we're reviewing FTO sheets every day with our new guys, right? So that turns into Ryan and myself sitting down for 20 minutes and walking through the last 24, 48 hours in regards to what the officer fills out when those new officers are with them. So,
So that could go off your plate, probably. I mean,
well, to an extent, I'll be honest with you, I still feel that it's important that I'm, maybe it's more of a progress report to me from Ryan's position, not necessarily maybe me having to meet with that new officer. Free up some time. Right now, we met with the new officer. Ryan worked a night shift with the new officer, but yet I was involved in the meeting, so we had to come back in the morning. So, I think there's a way to be able to probably be a little bit more efficient, to be honest with you, but also complete things. And there's things that need to be done. We're working through a massive policy update right now. I will tell you, it's overwhelming. I feel like we probably could have been done maybe 3 or 4 months ago if we just would have had more personnel, right? It's Ryan and myself having to work through legal jargon, and that kind of stuff. So
who is our current DTF?
right now, nobody's assigned to drug task force until we become full staff. So when we lost the last drug task force officer, we vacated that position, what we called timeout, just because I wasn't willing to go down from a patrol requirement until that position was back up and running.
Well, and it's a risk we take when we put somebody in that we.
It is. I'm not gonna lie. It's a fear for all of us, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I will tell you that, if our person that's been assigned to the drug task force for 8 years has done a lot of good things, and in the course of 5 months now, 6 months, we've we've even fallen a little bit behind on that. I've noticed a difference.
Yeah, So-
Isn't it for sure, like, you know what I mean? It's a type, but that's happening everywhere right now. That's the unfortunate piece, right? And that brings us into the fact of retention, right? I mean, I think that providing this pathway for the department gives some possibilities for officers that know, because we don't lose that many officers that often,
yeah.
you know?
So looking at your graph here, page
The
six.
org chart,
Yeah, the top one. So if you don't have anyone in drug task force right now, that person is in your patrol officers. So that would give you, we have 12
that,
currently.
that,
One,
That-
two,
that drug task force would go back to patrol, which would then make it 7.
which you currently have right now, right?
What, I'm not counting the new officer, no. But yeah, I mean, there's 7 bodies right now.
Yeah, you have 7, 2 are SROs. So that gives you,
The 7 I have right now, 7 warm
we didn't
bodies.
count the SRO. So
I
you
have 7 warm bodies of patrol, but I have 6 right now, because you can't count
Levi.
the baby.
Oh, okay. That will be something, right?
Yeah, so once the new officer is up and running, and, you know, we're thinking probably mid-November, then the conversation needs to occur on what that drug task force piece looks like.
So let me ask you about the reserve officers. It says 6. How many do we currently have?
That's how many I can have.
How many do we have?
We have 1 right now, because the good and bad, right? We find kids that are going to school, which eventually within that year or 2. So the positive is that it's helped us because we've hired it. How many, like, my current staff, we had 5 of them that were reserve officers for the Princeton Police Department. It's a very inexpensive way for us to see if they'll fit. Usually we try to split that in half. We have like 2 or 3 that are like they like law enforcement, but they haven't. And then we find 2 or 3 that are totally in law enforcement, leaving, going to skills, that kind of stuff.
I know we've had we have Carrie Hardy now, right?
Mhm.
And we had John Steinbrecher, and we've had in the past, like Jake, the snake. You know,
No,
but I'm just saying, people like that, why aren't we working to get our reserve officers? Cause it's free, right? Why aren't we working to build that back up to 6? And then those officers could take some of the service calls to answer questions, to patrol the campground, to do
Well,
those kind of
you're gonna
things.
get-
Why aren't we
you're gonna get
utilizing-
patrolling out of a reserve officer, but in regards to community contact, you won't get that. They're not gonna call somebody back and answer a question. I think what you're maybe thinking about is departments bigger, have CSOs
Mhm,
where they're capable of taking calls.
mhm.
Our reserves are more of an assisting. To answer your question, get me a good one to apply.
Well.
That's our issue. We've interviewed
Mhm.
probably 7 in the last 2 years. It just wasn't working.
They're they're not trained and ready to do.
No, and the problem we have, we have right now 3 that have interviewed with us. We've actually had them on ride-alongs with us. They're just in the process of starting skills. And we want them to get their skills started
Mhm.
and get comfortable at where they're at. And then we'll bring them on to our reserve program. But we weren't ready to take an 18-year-old that just graduated and say, hey, you're from here and you're gonna be now a reserve officer. There's other focuses there that we need them to do.
Well, are we advertising? Are we recruiting? Like, what are we doing to?
Well, we are recruiting, yeah. Advertising, no, not right now. We did. We had a couple applicants. We interviewed a couple applicants. We were very disgruntled and then we didn't advertise anymore because, we had to deal with other hiring issues.
Okay, what about a CSO then? Why do we not like have a CSO officer, which would come in at a lesser pay, could handle some of the,
I'm not willing to pay a CSO to handle animal calls. I mean, that's normally what CSOs do. They handle animal calls, vehicle lockouts, stuff like that. I mean, I don't, one, they're difficult to keep because their job ultimately is to become a police officer. Or it's a situation where they're only limited to so many calls, and I feel like with our size of a department, I don't think we're ready for that. I don't think we're ready for a CSO. I mean, it's, we have our animal calls, we have our, the vehicle lockouts have gone by the wayside because it's impossible to get into vehicles. That's the type of calls they handle. They don't go to domestics, they don't go to, well, they'll go to a traffic accident, but only after my officers get there, and then they use they're that glorified traffic car, right, that diverts traffic over and stuff like
well,
that.
the reason I ask is because we were, a couple weeks ago, we were camping in a campground and they had a CSO officer that patrolled through the campground.
Mhm.
And he'd stop and he'd pass out stickers to the kids and all that stuff. And it was just having that, his car looked just like, and he was dressed in a police officer uniform. It just looked like a police officer. And that's what he does is he patrols around and, and I just wondered if it wouldn't take some off your patrol officers, some.
We've talked about it. I mean, the CSO conversation is probably, I mean, I can tell you, I feel like I heard Dave Warnicky talk about it. I personally don't think we're big enough to have a CSO.
Yeah.
Just from a call load standpoint, like it doesn't fill, I just want to make sure we're clear on this. It doesn't fill a shift.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't fill a call car. There's absolutely no way that would ever happen.
Well, my thought is, you said there are some times where you have only one officer on.
Mhm.
If this other person was on during that time, is what my thought process was about. And that person would.
I guess I would not ever get in the situation of considering that to be a backup officer.
Yeah. Yeah. Then I'm looking at like on page 7, we've got the salary benefits and what the cost would be each year. That we'd have to keep adding on to the payroll each year plus equipment. But on top of that, it's not just the salary benefits and the equipment. It's cost of living raises, health insurance increases. We're gonna have pay increases for the newly created positions and that kind of thing. So, it looks like, if you look at that graph right there, it looks like, 2030, it's gonna cost us another 110,000, but there's a lot more costs associated with that than just that. So if I look at what the current pay is already for our police department, it's $1,823 and $1,823,615. 2026, it would go up to 1.9 million, 2027, 2 million, 2028, 2.1 million, 2029, 2.2. 2030, we're looking at $2.3 million. That's just adding the 4 new officers. I'm just trying to make sure everybody understands the full impact. It's not just an additional 100,000. And like I said, on top of that, I didn't even add in cost of living raises, health insurance, the increase in pay for newly created positions. But by 2030, you're probably looking at a $2.5 million salary, just pay only.
So,
And that doesn't include the cost of squads this is a huge.
so it should be
Huge
noted,
impact.
yeah, it should be noted that the dollars that are in there are salaries plus health insurance as of today's numbers. So there isn't
No, I'm saying the increase when it
Yeah.
goes up.
Yep.
18%
Yeah.
or 42%
Yeah.
or something, you know what I mean?
Yep,
So
some of
there's, yeah. And I realize our population is increasing, from 2024 to 2025, it's only gone up by 14 people. From 2020, to now, it's gone up 500 people, so approximately 100 year. I just, Todd, I'm not saying that there isn't a need. I just feel like this plan is very, very aggressive. I would have liked to have seen, you know, maybe let's see what the population does and maybe think about skipping a year and maybe doing one another year and then seeing how things are going and then maybe do one another year or something like that. But to add, to go from a $1.8 million salary to 2.5 million is a lot for, I feel like, the taxpayers to be able to handle.
Well, I understand that, but like, this is the same argument that every city has in every state. We want population growth. We want people to come to our community. We advertise to have people here. This shouldn't be a surprise. Because at the end of the day, right now, if you take 7 patrol officers, right, we are not at even a normal expectation. And you're right. These are all just like the International Chiefs Association, the FBI and stuff like that. There are, every article you read, every survey you look at, it talks about things. There are tons of difference, right? Like you said, Minneapolis, St. Paul versus Princeton, right? Or Roger, like there are variables or thoughts that are probably really not obtainable in data, right? Service and care, like I would tell you that the call longevity of used to be much more simpler, right? Whether it's 2 calls, 4 calls, 5 calls, 11 calls, you know, a shift, doesn't change the fact that we are spending more times on call, right? There's that expectation of service, right? Now, also along with that, there's also, we're having to do a lot more preparation to criminally charge people. Like I can remember, it was fairly simple for us back in the day. Now there's county attorney, city attorney requests that come in before we even know that we're going to court. So that's follow-up that comes into play. So, whether this is aggressive or not, like this is why we're coming to you guys, because I don't necessarily know if this is the right pathway. I just know that this is where we want to be at a certain point in time. Is it cheap to provide public service and law enforcement to a community? No, it's not. It never has been.
No.
I mean, I sit up here and look at this budget review every year and I'm always the highest. I get it. I know it.
The other thing that we have to look at is we have fire trucks that need to be replaced. We still don't know how we're gonna pay for that. We have all kinds of infrastructure that needs to be replaced. We still don't know how we're gonna pay for that. I mean, we can only tap out the 5,000 people in this town so much before. And we can't really grow that much more. I mean, we have some houses going in, but unless people annex into the city, there really isn't any more room for more growth.
Would it help mitigate some things if we still moved 1 SRO to detective for caseload and also added a sergeant to have them available for responses? And also the other, like you said, is assisting you in handling some of these more administrative areas. And I'm just imagining in my head all of the videos I see of people First Amendment auditing and asking for a supervisor and stuff like that. We're not going to be able to respond to those situations if one person has to be in all these situations
So to answer the first, so the detective position right now, it's always been a goal for us to have one of our SROs assist with some of the investigations in the summer, and we kind of do that now. Problem is that when that SRO or they come out and there's then the filling the vacations, shifts and those kind of things, so it turns into, they're taking calls, right?
Sure.
Where they, and I use for an example, like, Matt was just doing a follow-up and he was in Pryor Lake. That pretty much just shoots his day, right? So, yeah, I
Just for like the initial, maybe for the next year, having that change. Financial impact wise, having the SRO focus more on detective work. Would that be a substantial burden financially, or would they still be getting paid similar? Maybe a slight bump up for,
yeah, there'd be a slight bump, but the problem is we tried this and that we're not capable of doing that in the summer because we're still having to cover calls, right? Bottom line, not bottom line, but we are at a point where I need to not have one officer all the time going to calls.
You have two SROs though, right? So you would have in the summer 2 additional officers to help in the summer.
Yep. But again, when we have officers taking vacation in the summer, because that's when we normally take vacation, those SROs are falling into a cover shift. Right? So it becomes less work at times for the sergeant to cover calls because the 2 SROs are covering those shifts, right? To maintain coverage. But it doesn't work out that way all the time. I mean, we have guys gone in training. I just literally, we had to deal with a court issue where it was 3 continuous days of court and it was a night car. And our sergeant had to go fill that shift a little bit to go at least allow for that individual to go home. So we're in a new unfortunate era of law enforcement where safety is a concern. I get worried when I have one guy on and I have an even younger Mille Lacs deputy who is labeled as the South End deputy. So when I say the South End deputy, that means they are covering south of Mille Lacs to Princeton. And there's a roaming sergeant because they're still short-staffed, right? So, I mean, that's in my mind, ultimately, what we're trying to do here is provide coverage, but also provide a better service. I think we do a damn good job of providing a service now, but I think it can be better. But
what would be priority for 2026? It says officer 1 added. Would a additional sergeant help the situation, or the lieutenant change that's proposed in 2028, or an additional patrol? What's kind of your priority right now?
I think it says it on page 7. Like for 2028, there wouldn't be.
yeah, we went
Right, it's just a great change. But
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, in the 5-year span, what helps the workload right now? Because like you're saying, I don't want stressed out, exhausted police officers who then deal with the public, because that's where you have slip ups and costly lawsuits and things like that. But like,
I think I can jump in. I would say that similar to Bob's request to convert a part-time position to a full-time position, it's the same struggle. So, I mean, if you can put another patrol officer on, that's another person to fill those vacation requests, or when people, I mean, it's more flexibility to, And therefore then the number of shifts that the sergeant is covering by default drops, because then now you've freed up the sergeant's time from being a call car to being able to have time to work on policy, look for grants.
Mhm.
You know,
Would it be more realistic to look at it? Is it the 5 years is like that set for some reason, or is it just kind of, we can go out?
No, it was like, I would
It's
say.
their wish list.
Yeah.
We put a dartboard up in Michelle's office and we threw a dart and we said 5 years. No. If you guys ask me like what I would prefer, let's hire 4 in 26 and just be done with it, because that'd be awesome. But trying to, you guys are gonna laugh. We're trying to be budget responsible here. We're trying to be financially responsible. We truly are. I just, there's an end game to this, right? This is where I think we need to be.
Mhm.
If it's 30 or if it's 31 or if it's 32, I don't, there has to be an end game, right? Whether we see a population growth, whether we see, I mean, if you look at those numbers, you gotta remember that we're dealing not just with 5,400 people. We're dealing with 10,000 people that come through Walmart in transactions. We're dealing with 19,000 people from a school district standpoint. Like, those are all calls that we have to manage throughout the time. I mean, and again, there's no data for this, but there are calls that never get, like, not calls, there are questions that, phone calls that we take more of that service piece that seem to be taking longer and longer and longer. So.
Is there kind of, like, we could use another officer like soon? Is that kind of?
And then maybe get creative with the org chart or strategy.
Well, and I'm just looking at like, okay, so you got 5 years hiring 4 officers and doing motion inside of there.
Mhm.
What if you just looked at down to 2028, just looked at adding an officer and doing a promotion? And I mean, is that?
Well, I think you're going, I guess, where I was gonna go here. We're looking at 2026 right now. That's what we're doing. We're doing levy for 2026. The future planning, and I admire you guys for looking out. That's great to do that kind of stuff. But I think for us here today in this moment, we should maybe just set that aside with it, because we're talking about the budget for 2026. Let's look at, and then the future, it might be a 8-year plan. I mean, who knows? We don't know how it's gonna play out. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I appreciate presenting it and give us some food for thought. You did address, I think, when the calls, not so much the number of calls, they're stagnant apparently, but just the nature of the calls, and then added requirements and reporting, and that takes more time, more.
Yeah, and I would tell you that, like, looking at the graph that we did with your total number of ICRs throughout the year is important, but it also, doesn't take into effect that, when you're having to hire over the last few years, I would tell you our self-initiated calls go way down. That's just.
What do you mean
the-
by self
A
initiated?
traffic stop,
Mm.
right? So, and the only reason for that is because, we have officers that are either like, if we back up to, the domino effect of an officer retiring, to everyone's surprise, to an officer leaving in the same, within 2 months, we were shorthanded 2 officers for a number of months, a long time. We finally get back to somewhat of breathable staff level, and then we've gone through this process of where we're down officers. So that, I think that plays into a little bit of it, but, we talk about the stupid COVID, right? But every department experienced a decrease in calls with COVID.
Mhm.
That plays into a fact, So to go back, Ben, to what we were trying to, when we laid out this 28 of like this promotional piece, we were kind of trying to address. We would like to see 2 sergeant supervisors on both rotations. So if we don't do that, then we gotta figure out how to try to cover that, and maybe that is still the current sergeant position, but then let's just call what it is. I'll be super selfish, then I'm gonna be mad. I'll be irritated, because now what this was allowing us to do was to be more efficient in everything that's being called upon us for, which, like, right now, the current sergeant can't do any of that, because he literally is taking calls 70-80% of his 160 hours, right? We're catching, he came in at 2 today. He was supposed to come in at 4, but I needed 2 hours with him just to go through some situation stuff. And now he's taking calls until 2. We have guys that are on vacation and guys that are getting ready to leave for training. So.
So I like Jack.
For discussion for today, so I don't walking. Do you need a new officer in the 2026 budget? That's the bottom line, that's what we're here talking about today.
Are we like negotiating?
Well, no. You've made your case. I mean, okay.
Yes, I would like an officer added to my department in 2026 with a vision. I need a vision. Well, we, Michelle, myself, Ryan, need a, we need you to help us with.
Yeah,
what you guys
laying out
think
your
is
vision is
appropriate.
fantastic. I mean, but we're talking about this year's budget in the moment.
I understand that, Jack, but also I have to prepare for this.
Well,
Like, I truly do. Like, this is not.
it's understandable.
Like, I would tell you, if I'm gonna hire an officer in 26, in exactly a month, I need to send guys to Alexandria Tech and wine and dine skills kids. Otherwise, I'm not gonna get an officer to apply. I'll have 2 people that will apply. So I have to kind of prepare for this every year, a little bit, but we have to, I can't, hence why we wanted to try to provide some sort of a talking point discussion.
And that's my plan. So in 2027, we'll discuss it again.
Next year this time.
Well, for the 2027 budget.
So I'm in favor of an additional patrol officer. I think not just for this. Everything costs are going up and needs are going up, but our revenue isn't necessarily going up.
Mhm.
So we need
It's always a
to
challenge.
find revenue.
That's always a challenge, that's our biggest challenge.
It's just gonna keep raising past us and we need to.
We have to be more creative with our events.
That's really where I was getting at it too, is that when you look at the 5 years, that's a big chunk.
Absolutely.
I get it, but I mean, obviously you can kind of step by step.
Well, we're not saying, you're talking about the capital plan, the fire truck or whatever. We don't know that we're gonna need that fire truck in 5 years. We assume we probably will, but a lot of things can happen in that time, so.
Or sooner.
Well,
You know,
and I think
I have other thoughts.
I mean, that comes up, yeah.
there's, other alternatives. I mean, I pushed Todd to consider, is it an every other year? Becomes, you skip a year, you do your,
Because we should have been keeping up with change and.
Well, that's the point of, we don't know that, but it's a good idea that, I'm not saying it's wrong, what you're doing. I'm just saying we don't know that
correct,
in the moment.
correct. And, next year's the last year of the current union contracts.
Mhm.
So, we'll have a little more certainty as to where we're at for wage increases for 27, 28. I'm hoping that we do another 3-year contract, because otherwise we're negotiating every other year, which brings no joy.
Oh, come on, it was fun.
Our projections.
And so, I mean, yes, I think we would, as a city administrator and a chief of police, we would be doing this city a disservice if we didn't think about employee retention, a succession plan, and long-range planning, whether it's this department, Bob's department, a combination of Bob and Chris's departments.
Or just reading my mind on.
I mean-
When have we increased staff appreciatively, I guess, in how many, at any department?
Well, Bob went from 5 to 6,
Was that?
2 years ago? Or 2 years ago, 3 years ago now?
It's been trouble.
I think it's been 3.
Yeah, and based on our research, I think it's been 8 since the last officer was added.
And Chris added one since I've been on council. I don't remember when that was though. So,
Yeah,
I think you ever bad in the end.
Yeah, Dan, when did he leave you? Was it quite a while ago?
It's been a few years.
they don't-
Well, but anyway, it hasn't been, we're not overstaffing, I don't think. It's quite some kind of thing.
I would, yes.
And no, we're not growing leaps and bounds, but we're growing, we're expanding the area,
Well, it's not like we can't address this.
No, I think this is gonna be a topic of discussion again, I think regardless of what we're looking at. I mean, one of the things that we have to acknowledge is that we have, as Bob eloquently stated, we have people that have been here for a very long time. People like to stay here, they like working here.
well, nothing.
And as a result, there's good and bad parts to that, mostly good. But we also have to acknowledge that there are people that are getting close to the end of their tenure, and we have to plan for what happens when those people leave, and what does our organizational structure or a department's organizational structure look like? And how do we prepare the foundation for that 5 to 10 years out? So this is the start of that. And again, I think we can bring back more information towards the end of the year just to kind of refresh and kind of, you asked for some information from some other cities. We can still provide that. We'll just keep it as one of our budget topics.
You're responsible, I would say in our case, leadership here is to overstaff. But it's also you're responsible to understaff and not provide the services that we're obligated to provide. And we have to find that balance. That's why we make the big money.
So to move on, I think we're all in agreement of adding one officer.
I think, I would absolutely think that should be certainly, But we still have to stay within that levy.
And as far as the plan, we can relook at that and.
Okay,
Just obviously I have notes. Let me know if you have other thoughts, ideas, or wants, it's, if you're gonna say data, I'm in a records management transition coming Tuesday, October 7th.
Oh, yeah?
Don't ask me about data. Because we're expecting, and Ed knows this, that we're gonna lose everything. But, I mean, yeah, there's some easy things to obtain, just let me know. I appreciate it was a longer conversation than we wanted, but again, it's just one of these things where I'm not gonna be here forever. Me and Bob are gonna walk out holding hands.
Skipping.
I'm skipping. I'll be honest with you, I'm trying to leave this in a good spot. I know it sounds corny, but we've done a lot of great things for this department when it comes to body cameras and all the different things that we've done. And it's awesome because it's never been a problem, right? That's exactly what we want this to be. I would tell you, we don't need any fire trucks. But at the end of the day, it's just.
What?
It's,
You lost me at the community service.
You pulled that, you didn't even remember that. He doesn't even know what that stands for.
Oh, yeah. Dealt with them many times.
I wanna, I would tell you, there are some things that we really, really wanna do, but staff limitations allow us to really not do that. So again, I appreciate it. We'll keep coming back with more stuff, and I would look forward to any meetings that you buy me coffee and we can talk about.
You're buying copies, okay?
Well, no, actually, Bob said he would buy you and me coffee.
Never do that.
And then leave.
I would take a cup of coffee anyway. And the first person sees that, is, yep.
Does that count as nominal enough where we can accept it like you?
Sure, but yeah, a 24-ounce
Yeah.
thing of coffee for $2.35, you will not be breaking any laws.
$1.79 if you use your oinks.
And it's $1.50 if you bring your own thermos.
Nothing people don't love to do more than talk.
Yeah, anyway,
They see something they don't, they see what they want to see, not what they have.
correct.
I've been around long enough to learn that.
Okay. All right. Moving on. All right, so next item is, so the capital improvements levy. We, in the 5 years I've been here, we have not raised the annual levy amount, from $175,600. I just threw a number in the budget. We can shrink that number. We could not increase it. I'm just looking for some input from the council. So the capital improvement levy basically goes into the capital reserve. It helps pay for, not a fire truck, but, a truck for, one fire truck for Bob's.
Plus, I got bought out of capital reserve.
Yep.
So where are we sitting right now? I don't know.
I don't know what the capital reserve is. I didn't bring that. Oh, maybe I did. Hang on.
Well,
Anyway, but right now the number is $175,600. And it's never enough.
no, and I don't care how much you make, it ain't gonna be enough, but, again, that goes back to, we have to take a little step at a time. Don't let something go for 20 years. Oh, why didn't we do that? It's not responsible governing. But depending on where we're at with the big balance, I think should we do a little step or a big step? I guess.
Well, that's my question to you. I mean, I, in my head, I thought about 200,000. But I just wanted to, I bumped it to 225 just because I thought, well, that buys us a little bit more stuff, but that number is at your discretion. It's not necessarily tied to any particular thing. I just need to know what you would like to see that.
We have to pay under that preliminary levy, and it would be nice to see that number even lower at the end of the day, so. So it all ties in.
Correct. I just need to know where your comfort level's at.
I don't think there's anybody could argue we shouldn't increase it, but how much, it would be that's my thought. I would say a minimum go to 200,000. That would be my.
And we could do 200,000 this year and 225 next year. Increase it another.
This is something, we just have to be more conscious of it and try to be a little more,
Yeah.
maybe proactive, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, I
I
would
would recommend 200 this year and then next year bump it up another 75 to
It'll
200.
give you some flexibility when you're crunching your.
And then you know for next year bump it up again,
Yep.
another 25.
all right, sounds good?
Yep.
Okay, so the Economic Development Authority number has, again, it's been an issue that has not changed. And I will tell you, I have Mandy digging through the Economic Development Fund. The total fund balance for the Economic Development Fund is in the hole about $2.4 million. So I need to figure out what didn't get transferred in the past, and how we fix that. But one of the things that needs to be discussed is, we levy, $18,000 and our expenses with salaries, et cetera, that total amount is $105,068. So right now I've got that entire amount being levied, which is essentially what ABDO suggests that other communities do, is they levy for their annual expenses for the EDA.
So what, we talk salary, that'd be what, Safety compensation.
Part of Stacy, part of, Mary Lou, and then miscellaneous. I mean, either way,
Yeah, they're getting paid no matter what.
Correct.
No matter what.
it's either gonna go to the general levy or it's gonna go to the EDA levy, one of the two.
So
I mean, what's,
would it be a wash and?
it's,
So this isn't increasing anything necessarily other than what's allocated to EDA. That's what you were kind of
Well,
explaining last time.
correct.
The general fund would have to cover.
Correct.
It wasn't anyway.
yes,
But it doesn't make sense to show it the way it is. Like, that doesn't make sense. I have 18,000 in there when the
Right.
actual cost is 100.
Right,
Yeah.
that was confusing, yeah.
No, it should be actual.
Not a bad number.
yeah, and I will tell you that, you know, even looking back at older budgets prior to 21, well, 21, it was 17,895, and I'm sure if we looked back before, you know, prior to that, and I would guess, I shouldn't guess, I should say that if we pulled the budgets prior to 21, there was probably a line item at the beginning of the budget that talked about transfers out from the general fund to the EDA fund. But that's why I have Mandy digging through a ton of records to see what other dollar amounts didn't get transferred that should have got transferred. So,
When the
I-
fund started, did it ever go down? Like someone was like, we don't need all these numbers right here. Let's just go
I
back over there.
can't answer the question, Nick. I mean,
There was some goofy stuff on
yeah.
Okay, well,
So I just want to know if you think I'm heading in the right direction in terms of making sure we levy for that. The other alternative is you no longer attribute salaries to that special revenue fund and you just leave,
and put it all in planning and zoning.
correct,
Isn't that where it's at right now?
no,
oh,
no,
So.
pardon me?
Pardon me, where's the line?
Yeah, so right now, Mary Lou's salary is a third. Say it's a third admin, a third EDA, and a third planning and zoning, and Stacy is a 60-40 split. So yeah, so Mary Lou is a third, and a third. Stacy is 60% in community development and 40% in EDA.
Is there any revenue sources outside of the levy that cover EDA costs? And this, I'll be honest with you, for me, I'm looking a little bit over my head.
Mhm.
When I look at like, I'm on the East Central Regional Development, and that, there's a line item in your property tax.
Correct, that's specifically for that particular organization. No, so basically there would be a line item on the city's property taxes for the local EDA.
Yeah.
But other than levy revenue, any other revenue would be directly related to a specific project,
Right.
and it would be grant dollars. Or building permits.
Well, down to which is the most genuine way of doing it and the most transparent. I don't know if the right term only. It's being covered one way or another.
Correct.
we're, like, how we're coding it or defining it or.
Well, because we're budgeting for 75,000 under economic development for salary. And then we're also doing 97,000 under planning and zoning.
Correct, because it's 60%
Yeah,
and 40 and 33 of Mary Lou's.
okay, but what I'm saying is,
Yep.
so how does this come out to be
You
105,000?
gotta go all the way down to the bottom of on page 2
Mhm.
of the special revenue fund. So it's not just salaries, it's all the other miscellaneous things.
Got it.
So if we adapt what you're proposing in this year's levy, future levy, it'd just be a part of it.
It'd be, yep, it would be, any increase in the future years would,
We're giving a little bit of a jump thing here, not to point fingers in the middle, but it's gonna affect our levies, it's gonna have any, when that number hits paper, that's when you might get a phone call, or you go to the coffee shop or whatever.
well,
What the hell are you doing?
well, I mean, we've already
And it's nice to
taken,
have something to take.
Well, so if you make the correction or do you keep kicking the can?
Mhm.
correct,
Well, so it looks like we put a 827,000 in 2024. We had 750,000 miscellaneous state aid and 54,000.
that would have been project cost related for the business park.
Mhm.
Correct, it went straight to infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, it almost looks like we need more.
Yes,
Nothing is is ongoing, it's never gonna, it's not gonna change.
correct. Right,
So what you're asking is,
I just wanna make sure that you're comfortable, I mean, it's not fun to do that big of a jump, but I just wanna make sure that you understand why I'm doing it.
That'd be, it should be corrected at some time,
Yeah.
you couldn't space that out over a couple of years.
No. No, because it's ongoing expenses. So. All right.
And we gotta make tough decisions. guys.
Yep, so that answered that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like my regular
You gotta
job.
take care of
As
it.
long as everyone's angry at me, I know I'm doing it right, so.
Well, the first thing I learned at the county, Frank, Stuff Steve, I told him, if you go to a meeting, you leave and everybody's mad at you, you did the right thing.
There you go.
Okay.
No friends in government.
Okay, all right. Next up are the updated, mayor and council, or not mayor and council, general government budget worksheets. What changed from last week is basically we had some deposits made, so some of the revenues are updated, and then, we had payroll this week, so the payroll piece got updated, but in general, the regular, toll services and supplies wouldn't have changed because we don't have a bill list till next week. So if anybody saw anything that they had questions on, now's your chance to, and this isn't the only chance, I'll probably bring this back, another
yeah,
time.
I was gonna ask you if you would, because
Yep.
I did not have time
I know,
to
yep,
go through
And I-
this like I normally
yep,
do.
and I can make you a new hard copy too, by the way.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Actually, you can have this hard copy.
Okay.
How's that?
So I'd like to be able to take some time to really look
Yep.
through it and grab
Yep.
stuff. And I did notice that you had a comment that you haven't been able to go back and make the fixes or whatever from
Yep, I'm working through
the
that.
last time.
Yep, I've done some of them, but not all of them.
So,
And keeping tabs on, I still have our notes from our last,
yeah,
so.
because it would be really nice to have all that stuff. I guess,
Yep.
before we finalize the final.
Yep, I will have it done, yep, not a problem. Okay, last but not least, is the para, statewide volunteer firefighter plan. So, para, changed its policy. We used to be able to send an email to the staff at para and they would provide an update as to where our fund balance is and if we wanted to make any changes to the per year of service benefit level. Now they will not do that. You get one report and this is it. It came out in July. And it's an actuarial evaluation, so they're basically doing a best guesstimate through the end of 2025. And so if you refer to page 4 of the para report, I don't know what page it is in the agenda. They provided a comparison of the benefit level, which is at $5,000 per year of service. And then they ran some scenarios for 5,100, 5,200, and 6,000. So the council like 3 years ago. Any about that? Set the, minimum funded ratio at 113%. Which
Might have
means,
been 4 years.
could be 4 years, I don't remember exactly. So, essentially, if you look at the last page of that Steve calculated out, we can actually pass a resolution to go to $5,700 per year of service. And we will still be funded over that 113% ratio. So this is more of an information piece. It doesn't impact the levy. We do, even though we're not required, because we're funded enough, we still put in a voluntary contribution every year. And then there is also the state fire aid, which is known as 2% monies.
Correct.
That goes in from the state, goes into para. This year was 110,000-ish for the city of Princeton. That went into the para fund already in October here, October 1st. So part of this is just education for the new people, and then just a kind of a heads up that come December, we'll have a resolution to up the
And that's
amount.
annual, we find out whether or not we have that gap or over, whatever.
Well,
We're not setting this.
so what happens is that, if we go, when we set it at 5,700, then next year we'll get a new report.
Yeah.
Then we would look at what the assumptions were in that report.
Mhm.
And we might, I mean, we've been at 5,000 since 4 years ago. I'm looking at Bob, former firefighter.
Yeah.
So once you set it,
That's where you're.
it'll be there until you change it again.
Yeah.
You
So,
can't go,
Can that
down.
be done?
pardon me,
Can that
You
be
can't
done
go
yearly?
back.
we can't go down.
Sure.
But can it be done yearly then? 'Cause you
It
got-
can if we feel that we will maintain that 113. This council has set,
That's our base,
that's the baseline that you've set. So,
Because that protects us.
correct.
so what that money is for, and then what that level is for, is in case tomorrow,
Mhm.
every firefighter basically died.
Mhm.
Because you can't get paid out early until you're 50,
Yeah.
but it covers every liability there. And you still got the trucks to sell if you all die.
It's 5,500. What percentage would that get us at? Is that on this?
Yeah, it's on the last page. So
I
it's,
don't think it's.
yeah, it's in the middle.
Well, as long as they,
No, you gotta go to the very last page. Go to the very last,
as long as.
very last.
Does
One more, keep going.
anybody
Keep going.
need to change that number? That's 113.
There you go.
So that was,
Yep.
those typically don't change. That's the standard that is negotiated,
Not even thinking.
and that is, and I haven't dealt with it here, but I've dealt with many departments that have.
So we're just.
It's a formality. It's set up to be a formality that when you reach that level, it's as close to automatic as you can imagine. So,
Prior to the council setting that 113% level, every year the department would come in and come before the council and make a request, and the council, and partially, I think me, because it's like, look, let's just set a level. And then
Give it the baseline to work off.
that's the minimum, like Councilor Gerald said, it protects us, it keeps the fund positively funded. And-
Number you did just pull out of your budget, the
No,
research number.
No, there's. Oh.
well, technically, I mean, there was some discussion, I mean, there was, we knew we didn't want it to be below 100%. We also didn't want it to be at 100%. We could have set it at 125%, but the council at the time felt like 113. I think it had to do with getting to that 5,000 level. I think that's kind of where it played in. Bob's.
There's no need to monkey with that number. That's our number, and we're gonna
Correct, we're not suggesting that you change that 113%, I think. I mean, a future council could,
well,
but I don't think that's wise. I mean, I like the fact that you've got a little bit of cushion to make sure that it's always, because like I said, right now, we choose to make a voluntary contribution as an organization. We don't have to because based on the fund balance, we are fully funded. But a council in the future could say, well, again, from a levy perspective, well, there's another $26,000 that we could take out of the general operating budget.
Right.
I'm not recommending that.
Have a- Well, if we have a rough year or whatever.
Correct.
But that 5,700 is the 113.
That would be
Correct.
us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay,
Or we could pick the 5,500
no.
and just go up to 500.
I mean, we're staying within the policy.
I'm just saying we could.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Actually,
Anyway, so again, we're not asking for any action. We just wanted to we wanted to give you the information. You can review the report. Wanted to have the discussion about where we set our limit at. And then, so that when this comes up in December for the resolution, you won't be surprised.
Mhm.
So,
It's a very important recruitment and retention.
Yeah.
It does keep maybe older guys to stick around a year or two longer.
Right.
You know,
Or 3 or 4.
yeah. Especially if you say in 5 years, we're gonna raise it. But yeah, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
that's all I got.
Get enough directions.
Yes, we have enough direction. We're not sure our compass is in alignment with the north arrow.
I appreciate certainly the brief discussion, especially how much thought was put into that process, and we need to know all that. There's no question about it. And I didn't mean to be rude, but we're talking about 2026 budget, so we gotta be real careful, we don't drift too far.
Nope, that's fine.
All right, anybody else have anything? If not, we'll go to number 4.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? We are adjourned.